What I'd like to do is introduce myself and then just talk a little bit about where we fit into the broader scheme of things, move through some of the fire restriction details that we're experiencing at the moment, and then we'll move into emergency evacuation procedures. And just, there's probably going to be more questions than me just rambling on, so feel free to stop me at any time and ask a question, and we'll see what we can answer between myself and the sheriff and our lieutenant and my co-worker here and Alvin. We should be in a position to answer most questions. So, my name is Mike Roux. I'm the Director of Emergency Operations for Archuleta County Sheriff's Office, and for the county. I'm a department that sits below the sheriff. So we have 6 departments. We have emergency operations, patrol, detentions, admin, alternative sentencing. And so we're just one of those. But our responsibility is that we are tasked with coordinating the county's response to an emergency or disaster county-wide. And we're lucky enough that we also look after parts of Mineral and Hinsdale, this side of the divide. So our total coverage area is about 2,000 square miles that we have to look after, with not a lot of people, and lots of people in a lot of hard places to get to. So it keeps us busy. I'd like to introduce my Deputy Director of Emergency Operations. It's Christina. She's at the back. She's been here and she's experienced a lot of stuff before my time, so she's a great resource that we have in the county. So right now, I wanted to just say thank you so much for your diligence and responsible actions in calling in smoke reports and reporting fires. I think that is our key resource, and I think that's the thing that you as a community here within Aspen Springs globally is in a lot stronger position than many other communities, because you guys know a lot of people, you talk a lot, there's a Facebook page that goes out, so there's a lot of information that gets shared there, and our dispatch centre is probably on first name terms with a lot of residents here, just because people are calling stuff in. And, you know, to be honest, that is a good thing, and we are paid to respond, to get out there, and if it doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. Right now, other than having a little campfire and sipping on a glass of wine, that's about all the fire activity that we should be seeing at present in and around the suburbs. So anything that you see that doesn't comply with that, call it in. We're running a little bit late here this afternoon. That thunderstorm that we had yesterday afternoon had some lightning strikes. I know there was a response to Mervyn Court with some power down there. Today we had some of that manifested on the other side of Cat Creek Road. So although the lightning struck yesterday afternoon, about 2 hours ago, that came up as a lightning strike tree, and it was about 1/10 of an acre, mile marker 4 Cat Creek, way back in the back there. So we had a mutual aid response with our partners, and we managed to get on top of that. We'll go back tomorrow. So we are kept relatively busy. You guys fall within Pagosa Fire Protection District. As the county, wildland crew that is responsible for about 200 square miles of our own fire district. That's not within Pagosa Fire, so we're busy. We have a fire crew that responds to that. But we work well with different jurisdictions. Forest Service, BIA, Pagosa Fire, Los Pinos, we all have an agreement that's signed to say that we'll help in the event that we need help, but we all respond to those things as it is. So just want to say once again, thanks so much for doing your homework. Thanks so much for calling stuff in. We'll come all day, every day, just to check it out, to make sure that it doesn't become an issue. So early warning is paramount. More so this year than other years, we start to talk about emergency procedures and evacuations, and that's part of our realm, is to deal with emergency preparedness for the county. We are responsible for the notification and the point B of the address that you're coming from point A. So it's up to the residents, the HOAs, the different subdivisions to come up with their own evacuation plans. We certainly are in a position to review those plans and assist and provide guidance where we can, but we're not resourced, and that's not our realm to write a plan for every subdivision or every HOA that thinks that they are unique, because when you look at the county, there's lots of places that are in worse shape than a lot of areas here. So we put that back on the community. That means that you guys are engaged, you have buy-in to that process and that planning, and then we are there to provide the next step, the accountability, the direction of where to go, providing that sheltering, So that's one component of that, and then obviously the notification and making sure that everybody is notified in the event of an evacuation is critical, and that's our responsibility along with the Sheriff's Office. We talk about evacuating communities. I'm sure most of you have seen and heard and been involved in some way, shape or form, either locally or through friends, relatives or the news. When you see what happens in California, we obviously don't want any of that to happen here. However, displacing people is a big event. You know, finding a home for people to go from here in a mass emergency. You know, we don't have a lot of resources in the county to provide adequate housing for everybody here. So there's a lot of stuff that we would like to do ahead of actually evacuating people. You know, and a lot of that stuff starts with the homeowners, starts at home, starts with your local planning and preparedness. And a lot of that stuff can be mitigated before such time as we actually pull the trigger and say, let's evacuate. Even still, we've got to look at doing it in sections, stages, and it's going to be earlier rather than later.
Well, I had a question. Does the county have, I believe they do count, where they can phone out to cell phones?
Absolutely. So we have a platform, it's called Nixle Everbridge. It's a reverse 911. It's a text message system. And basically what that does is it allows you, once you're registered, to get that notification in the event that we push notification out like that.
So we have to register it with who?
So if you go to the Archuleta County website, so that's www.archuletcounty.org, you tap on the residents tab at the top of the page. That'll bring you to a section and you're looking for citizens alerts. So it's pretty easy. County.org, residents, citizens alerts, and at the bottom there's a widget. And that allows you to register your cell phone, your landline, your email address. When we push out a notification, it can come in a number of different platforms. It will always come as a text if you have a cell phone. If you don't and it comes to a landline, you'll get a voice. It'll be an automated voice. We have the option of recording a voice. I prefer that it's Christina's voice rather than mine. What did you just say? You know? So, or the automated voice. And basically you have to opt out of that. It's one of those annoying calls that you have to listen to the end of the message and press 1 to get out of it. Otherwise, it's going to keep phoning you. So when you see a number that you don't recognize and you hang up, that'll keep phoning you if you haven't already received the text message before that. We also have the capability, so I'm sure a lot of you guys have received those amber alerts that we get from the state and the feds when there's a vehicle missing or a kid gone missing. Doesn't have a lot of information on. We'll put a bit more information on ours. But what that does is that's a federal system that we tap into. That then pushes out notifications, a blanket notification. So regardless of whether you're registered with that system or not, you will get hit on any platform. It'll hit the radio channels, it'll hit any signboard. We don't have a lot of those mobile signboards, but it would do that typically. It'll hit all your phones. Really, that's targeted at tourism, tourists, people driving from La Plata County through our county, and that didn't obviously get a chance to register, but something's up and that emergency gets pushed out, it'll hit their platform as well. That's kind of a mass tactic, and short of us having a huge fire that's taking out the 160, we prefer to target specific areas, obviously, so that we're not displacing most of the rest of the county. I know a lot of the infrastructure here is one road in, one road out, as it is in most of Archuleta County, or a lot of. So you're not unique in that, and we have a headache dealing with that. And I think that comes down to your community preparedness and your planning, and just discussing with your neighbour as to knowing what you're going to take, are you going to leave. Certainly the Sheriff's Office and the deputies and whoever will get out there will be knocking on doors and saying, you guys need to leave, there's a X amount of time warning. So we'll do the best that we can, but then it comes down to the actual homeowners, and as you've heard, no doubt, in many cases people do not like leaving. You have livestock, you have animals, you have pets, you have stuff that you have at your house that you would like to protect. And so then you know, there's only so much we can do, and I'll let the sheriff talk to that a little bit too. But in a nutshell, that's it, briefly. And so, without going into every single thing, I'd like to answer some questions. So, Richard, I'll take yours.
Another resource, not good for immediate emergencies, but is the sheriff's Facebook page.
Sheriff's Facebook page. So Sheriff's Office Facebook page, really the Nixle is going to be the deal. And if you didn't want to do your home phone, if you didn't have a home phone and you didn't have an email address right now, if you texted 888-777 and you texted our zip code 81147 to that 6-digit number, you'd be registered. And you would get notifications on your cell phone as soon as we started pushing them out. So 888-777, text the zip code, which is 81147. It'll come up with a little prompt saying, you know, yes, if you want to opt out, you type in no, and it'll take you off the database. So,
Mike, will that also work on a landline, or if someone didn't have access to the internet, how would they get into the system?
good question. Somebody else would have to register them.
So I can register you at my house by entering your numbers?
Absolutely. So if you had internet access, you go to the building, you put in somebody else's number, whatever that number is, that's the number that's registered. And the landline works just fine. Like I say, that's going to be a phone call, which you have to opt out, and that'll tell you the process of what we're looking at.
When a text comes, what does it come as? Does it come as that 888-777?
Yes. And the number, so the text comes as 888-777. That's not a marketing text. Pay attention to that. Don't delete that one. That's got some vital information on there. And the phone number will come from, you know, it's like 264-5555. It's the sheriff's office number. It's the county number that'll dial. But like I say, it'll keep ringing. And at that point, for the most part, people are going to be aware that there is something up. You know, like I say, we're going to be doing a lot more before that time. Then there'll be a pre-evacuation notice, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth here. The human component is relatively straightforward. Most people have the ability to comprehend that there's a situation that is of life threat. It's evacuating large animals, pets, and those kind of things that are dear to you that don't have a voice. And that needs to be done earlier rather than later. So we would send out a pre-evacuation, which might be a little bit more of a lead time, significantly. And I cannot put a number on that time frame. It could be anything, you know, depending on the weather condition. It could be an hour to 6 hours. You know, we'd make that call to the best of our ability. But animal evacuation is important, and it's up to the owner to be responsible for that. The county doesn't have a horse trailering crew. Pagosa Fire doesn't have kennels. You know, that's up to the owner. If you have 5 horses, you need to have the ability to move those 5 horses with the infrastructure and the equipment that you have. That's your responsibility. Unfortunately, we're going to be responding, and responders will be responding to that situation. Pre-evacuation notice goes out. We'd like everybody with pets and animals to start moving. At that time, we'll have some information as to where is a good place for you to go. Right, Terry's sitting in the corner here, and everybody's like, yeah, we're going to go to the extension building. And if everybody in Isolata went to the extension building, we'd be backed up through town and down the 84. So what I do encourage is that if you have friends, family, relatives, anybody else that's out of the county, or that you have the ability to go to that's out of the danger zone, that's probably your primary or best response area that you would want to go to, instead of going to a sheltering location like it might be the high school or the community centre, for example, because that starts to get overwhelmed. The stats show about 10% of people that are evacuated actually make use of the sheltering facilities that any county or jurisdiction provides. So 10% is not a lot. It's not a lot. But 10% in Isolata is a lot because of what we don't have, or the lack of what we don't have. You know?
This is off topic. Can you please open the window? It is so hot.
Yeah. I'll stop shouting.
Thank you.
So it's so hard. I could talk all night on various things, but what would you guys like to know more in depth? And certainly, let's bounce it around to the sheriff.
Your arm's too short.
Yeah.
Mike, are those notification texts, are they somewhat area specific? Or like, for instance, are we gonna get some, well, go ahead. You
No,
seem to know
so
everything.
they can be, and I'm glad you asked that question, and we're working on that. So what we did was we paid a large sum of money, and we still do every year. We're in a contract with this vendor, and they provide us all of the white pages, all of the yellow pages, and then anybody else that we can register. So we currently have probably about 8,000 to 9,000 phone numbers for the county. If I push it out, it goes to everybody. For the most part, what I have been using it for is things like when the feds are doing prescribed burning up in Turkey Springs, I'll send out just a general notification to say, hey, please don't phone our dispatch. We know there's a fire up there. Just to give people a heads up. That goes everywhere. We have the ability to target areas. It really just comes down to how many people in that area are actually registered. So I can draw a polygon over here, and if you're the only person that's registered, a polygon's not really that helpful. So it becomes a numbers game, and we try and populate with as many people as we can. So I wouldn't send out a mass notification county-wide for something that was happening back here. I'd try and target that area, which I could do, but it's only as good as how many people in that area are actually registered. So, and then one thing on that. So we have the ability, that's a public group. Then we have the ability to drill down into private groups. And that's kind of a smaller HOA with kind of limited numbers. We talk, like for example, Loma Linda, there might be X amount of people in there, but it's kind of a closed cell. Then at least I know when I hit the Loma Linda button, it's going to Loma Linda. We could certainly look at doing something like that here. Again, that would be kind of hard to get all that information into one spreadsheet because of the, I suppose, the population base here. So what I'd encourage is, it's easy for me to draw a circle around Aspen Springs. The more people that you can get this information out to, and the more people that can register for that, the more accurate and helpful that will be.
Ken and I are working on doing it by cluster boxes.
Okay.
Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4,
Okay,
Unit 5, Unit 6.
so that's perfect.
That's our goal.
And I have a spreadsheet which I can send you guys, and then there's a,
Awesome.
it actually shows you how to populate it. Then I just press upload, and it's in there, and just
Sweet.
call it whatever name. So it's,
Sweet.
because not everybody's affected. The other guys on the other side of the road there,
Bingo.
so instead of causing mass panic, we'd rather just hit the guys that are affected directly.
And one of the other things too is the notification on the return. So if it's something that we send a notification out and then we have to respond back, if he's drawing circles around that initial notification, then he's got to remember where he drew the last time to go back to that. And so sometimes we found with the old system that we're missing people. So there's people that are still out of the loop because they weren't notified. This way, if we have a specific group and a private group, then we know that the first initial one went out. When we send a response the second time to say, okay, everything's good, back, that we know we get the same people.
Absolutely.
Well, Rich, I have a question. If we have an imminent danger, and I'm thinking back to the missionary fire days of 2002 and Cabazon Canyon fire,
Right.
which we were put on a 2-hour notice up on 6 at the time.
Yep.
Would that be facilitated by sheriff deputies coming out and actually, loudspeakers, something like that, if we were something close?
Yes, so basically kind of that's what we've been working on. That's kind of in the event that something like that does happen, you're going to get the notification first. The first thing that you're going to get is either the email, the phone call, or the text message to get you down alert first. But then as the threat becomes closer, we're going to start jumping in there to make sure that now the second step would be us jumping in there, knocking on doors, trying to get people out of there. And so that's where we that's gonna be our primary responsibility, is doing that, the door knocking and making sure everything's there. And so, some of the challenges that we have, we did a mock, evacuation in Loma Linda. And some of the things that we found during that evacuation process was that some of the residents weren't marked well. We were kind of rushing by their deputies were going past driveways, going into driveways. It didn't look like it was a driveway, so we kind of missed a couple. And so we really want to make sure that, like, when we are, now that we're jumping ahead of this, we want to be out there to make everybody aware, like, that you have good signage out in the front, that maybe you trim it back just a little bit so we can see your driveway. Because then if we don't know that that's a driveway, they might go by it. But yeah, that's going to be that second phase is when we're going to be on the loudspeaker, knocking on doors and checking the houses and kind of giving you that notification. It is not going to be, it's going to be mandatory, it's going to be an evacuation. We're going to request it being a mandatory evacuation, but you know, is that we're not going to sit there and drag you out of your house either. We're going to move on, you know. So if you make that decision that you're going to have to stay there and you want to stay there, we request that you don't. You know, we want to, hopefully you get out of there. A couple of reasons. One, obviously injury to yourselves and other, you know, or your family. But then the other part too is that we're going to have to send responders back in there to rescue you if it does get to a bad situation. We just don't want to put that burden on them. So think about that when you are doing your the evacuation. When we do get there, it's going to be imminent. I mean, it's a serious threat. We want to make sure that you get to safety.
Sheriff?
Yeah.
So, would any of the communications be interrupted if, say, for example, the fire was over by the towers in the National Forest? Is that going to cut into?
It could.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we're jumping ahead of this, trying to put those types of scenarios in place. And what are we going to do? How are we going to react to that if this happens? You know, I got to give credit to Mike and his team, Christina and Matt, wherever Christina went. I don't know. But they've done a great job with the emergency management side because we recognize that wildland fires is probably going to be our biggest issue, and Aspen Springs is a big concern for us, and so we're jumping ahead of that. We contacted the National Guard. Mike did a mock training which simulated that scenario specifically. That it's going. How are we going to do that? What are we going to do? How are we going to get notification out? You know, because maybe you have Facebook, you may not get Facebook. You may not get a text, you may not. So we're trying to figure out how to get that information out there. So it may be that our volunteers in search and rescue and myself running around all the doors, knocking on doors to try to get people out of there in case of that. So, yes, sir.
And I haven't lived in fire except for here 20 years, but we really haven't had a lot of fires out here. We're 7 square miles, Aspen Springs. We're bigger than the city of Durango, actually, out here, and a lot of it is tucked away roads. Would it be beneficial, or is there some way that a citizen, once they're notified, let's say you're going to do a mandatory evacuation of Aspen Springs 5 here, is there something we can put outside, like a red flag, or something to let you guys know, you don't need to stop here, we're already gone?
Yes, and that's, in fact, that leads me to another section that he did. We just went down to Chromo. And that's exactly what we talked about, those same things, because theirs is big on animal rescue. They wanted to make sure the horses were getting out of there. We wanted to make sure that there's a place for that. But that specific topic did come up. On their situation, they're obviously a smaller area and a smaller group, but they've made the commitment to create a calling tree. So they've got citizens in themselves who are say, okay, I've got this X amount of people I'm going to call. If I get called, I'm calling them. And they've all agreed to make that call. They're in the process of testing it out, and I think they said the last time they did it, it took almost 3 hours. So, but,
it's not an efficient system.
yeah, but they're still trying to work it down. So they're trying to work out but at least they're trying to get there. So there are options like that to make the calls. And then the other thing too is like we are considering working on those to create a pamphlet or something that you can hang, a flag, or whatever it might be to let us know that you're gone. Because what we found on the Missionary Ridge fire when we were over there helping was some of those people had left, but then some of them came back because there was a time frame when that fire kind of slowed down. And so people went back in there and they didn't know that people were gone or they were going. So they ended up doing a system where they put, after they checked it, put a red X in the driveway or do whatever to say, okay, this place is clear, so that we knew the rescuers could go back.
Yeah, I just thought it might be an idea if we could do that.
Yeah, no, yes, sir.
What about staging areas?
that's something definitely we're working on, and that's a very important part, especially when, like we did with, that they're doing, I guess, out at Chromo, is with the staging area for the horses specifically, because they've designated one small ranch out there that's about 60 or 80 acres maybe, roughly, for, it could hold about 50 or 60 horses. So that's a staging area for the horses. But yeah, we're doing the same thing. We would find and commit to a place that is fairly close. You know, we don't want people that if we set up a staging area, we don't want you having to drive all the way to Highway 84 down there. You know, we would find a place that's reasonably close so that you can get down there and still be close for your property and your residence. If it's on the
Everything
other
else,
side,
yeah.
we might come this side. If it's on this side, we might go.
On the Cat Creek side, there's those big meadows on the other side, so anywhere that there's less fuel, obviously.
And we'll notify you of where those locations are, unless you guys come together as a community ahead of time and help us, and then we'd already have that place designated before it even.
Thank you. All right, we have a road back up in the top of 6 back there. It's a hiking trail. It's also would be a really good fire evacuation trail as well. What will we do, or how could we get you guys to help us in getting that going for them? Because there's a lot of animals up there. I know Matt has horses up there, and there's Karen has horses up there as well, and that would be a really good evacuation route. But it's closed down. It's got a gate across of it. There's a few people that know how to get in and out of it. But, and in order for an evacuation, though, I mean, would that be suitable?
So,
Break the gate down or
Yeah.
whatever, or how does that work?
well, that's already part of our MOU. We've already, well, not MOU, but we've already created an agreement with the United States Forest Service, so you can cross that section as an agreement for emergency access as an exit route.
Okay.
So you can do that, and so you can cross through there. It is to be maintained by the Sheriff's Department, and with the authorization that if somebody, a representative from the Sheriff's Department, be there to make sure everything is cleared off and that we're not piling up weeds or we're not cutting down trees that are too big. But it is already cleared and it is already set. That is already in our emergency plan to be for the evacuation from the top side of the United States.
But it is with the understanding that it is an evacuation route only.
Yeah.
As the last ditch attempt, because you have Catamanda on the bottom side, that's in the same situation that you guys are. Burns Canyon gets blocked off, they've got to come north, you know, so there needs to be two-way traffic.
So you're talking about the Burns Canyon Road, the old log, and from what I understand, and I haven't hunted up there in a couple of years, but the trees are.
Impassable in places.
No, Ken drove it the other day.
I was gonna say, me and Ken
Yeah.
and Wayne drove it the other day, and it's not too bad, minus a couple of burns in there. It's gonna get a couple of people hooked up
So,
on the horse trailers.
so we've dealt with the residents of Oak Hills Ranch, because that's how it kind of all came to pass, and then Kevin Kung, our ranger, district ranger, between him and the sheriff, came up with certain parameters as to what that is allowed to be.
Right.
Currently, the state that it's in now is what it's allowed to be, because it's just that. It cannot be a public road with a closed gate. So because it's a gated community, we have the closed gate, and it's really specific to Oak Hills and anywhere close. I mean, there's no way that you would leave from here to go up there, and even if you did, you would go down the back and come out at Cat Creek. So we've talked at length about this, and there's different options available, and we're still working on a current plan with that. But that is available in the event that we have to pull the trigger now. That's there for use, thanks to the sheriff and Kevin Connell, the district ranger. But like I say, our primary objective is to obviously stop whatever's coming before such time as we have to get people out of here. I mean, that's just what EMO is. To give you an idea here, and I mean, so yesterday we had the storm, we had the lightning strike. We had the ability to plot that lightning strike. We sent out resources yesterday afternoon. It wasn't really worth anything because it was still wet on the ground, but we knew roughly where it was. We got the call. County fire crew responded, Pagosa fire responded, Los Pinos responded, and our feds responded with 15. They didn't all go to the fire, but they were all in the area, staged on Cat Creek, coming up Cabazon Canyon. We had that whole thing. We even had Air Attack. Air Attack is a guy in a single engine plane. He's $2,500 an hour. and he flies around with a radio and he basically says, okay, I can see you driving in the truck over there, you need to head this direction, that direction, hey, it's 1/10 of an acre, looks like it's in mixed vegetation, so he's our eyes in the air, we don't pay for that, that's him, that is a resource available to the county. Because we're in such high fire danger this time of year, he's coming out of Durango, there's no cost to anybody, but we had in the region of 25 individuals, plus fire trucks, plus a guy in the air. It turned out that the area was no bigger than this room, and it was kind of just smouldering, and because it's a little bit red from yesterday, the smoke was putting up a lot, so it looked a lot worse. My point is, there's a lot of resources here. The San Juan Hot Shots, which is a 20-man hand crew based in Durango, they're not going anywhere. They're in the region for the rest of the fire season. So we have planes, trains, and automobiles to deal with stuff, providing that it's called in immediately, and that's up to you guys. So be aware, be looking. You know that unless it's in the evening, you should not be seeing smoke. And if you're seeing smoke, call us, we'll come,
Let me just add one more thing to that real quick,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, sir. But that's just it, the resources. We have the resources. We've got a lot of airplanes, we've got a lot of the helicopters and stuff. One of the things that, if it does get to that point, we talk about the fire. We have the air support that comes out of Denver, out of Durango. The state provides those airplanes for us already, so we fly at a free cost. So anytime that we get any smoke reports, you're going to see a plane buzzing, and that's going to be the first thing. The other thing is Flight for Life. We have an MOU with them as well, so they will come up if they're not busy or on a call and actually fly some of these fires to give us a size up so that we can assist us at no charge as well. So, like he said, there's a lot of resources, a lot of stuff, and we're trying to get to it just immediately so that it doesn't get to that level. But, when it does, those fires do get big and we start having to utilize those resources, especially the airdrops and stuff, they get expensive. But, and they're not always 100% successful. I learned a lot about fire retardants and stuff like that they put out. But it's a great resource for us, and we're going to use everything every time we get a chance, and we can just stop it immediately before it gets out of control. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things with the citizens reporting and actions and such, and we've had some conversations, some of us have a better view than others. And it's almost incumbent upon us, as you're coming home, coming out of the garage, and you look off in the distance or something, because a lot of us folks, you can't see hardly anything if you're down in a ravine or something. So we've kind of put the word out to folks that if you live in a view, use that view, and that would be one of the citizen responses.
Absolutely. So you have a responsibility. So, there's 5 mistakes that enhance disasters. That is complacency. You mentioned we haven't had a lot of stuff here in the last 20 years, and that's true. But let's not be complacent about it. It's going to happen. It's not if, it's when it's going to happen. So we need to be on top of that. So complacency, no place for it. 911 doesn't solve all the problems. If you're driving along 160, and we have this all the time, and someone phones in 911 and says, there's a fire, I think it's at mile marker 123, and then they go out of cell signal, and then we don't know, were they at 123 looking on the top of that bridge over there, or was it off the side of the road? So make sure if you're going to call it in, actually do a bit of homework. Just, you don't have to give us a full size up, but try and give us a little bit better, unless the sheriff calls me when he's out hunting. Being a cell phone, check where he is, you want to answer that. So anyway, it's the due diligence of the person calling it in. You have a responsibility and obligation to notify those resources, and we'll come. It's better to know what we need to come to and where exactly. Disaster declarations don't make the community whole. So just by the fact that we get something big and the sheriff says, right, let's declare a disaster with the Board of County Commissioners, and it gets escalated to a state level and then to a federal level, we only get 75% of the funding that was expended in that incident. The other 25% is made up with in-kind. So that becomes a community response, you know, and we have this awesome area which you don't replace easily.
And that's sort of where I was going, in that once it does get to that level, you've got county road and bridge, but you can also have an agreement with Metro District, because we have our own road equipment out here that could be an
Yeah,
asset.
that's excellent. And we're trying to jump ahead of this. I mean, we really want to be ready for it. So we're worried, I think just like everybody else is. We've got every single one of our deputies have gone through the 130 and the 190 wildland fire course, so that we can make sure that we have those guys, that they're up to speed, understanding fire habits, and kind of what's going on with it, because we don't know what's going to happen. And when you talk about us going up there and knocking on the doors, things happen so fast, and we really could have a concern for that, because fire can move quickly. You know, I go back to the Missionary Ridge fire again. You know, when that thing was up, they were about a day, they had notification before they were going to be evacuated. Well, that night, instead of it kind of coming down, it laid down, and shoot, that thing went out, and they were getting knocked on the door and said, you have 20 minutes to get out of here. So that's why we want to encourage, you never know what the fire behavior is going to do, and then we also encourage you, if we do give you that evacuation notice, get your animals there. You have your animals or something like that that you know is going to take you a little while to get out of there. At least get them down somewhere safe, if you can get them to somewhere else. I'd rather you be down there and it not hit you that fast than be in a last minute. Because last minute, we're going to want you to get out of there, and we'll help you with the animals, as not necessarily driving them out of there, but what the deputies are going to do is they're going to go over there, they're going to see the animals, they're going to cut a fence, they're going to throw a number on them or paint a number or something and just and get out of here and get them out and let them go. That's pretty much what they're going to do. And so we don't want to get to that point. We'd much rather you know that your animals are in a safe place and that it's in a pen, it's being taken care of, and not running around up here on the top. So it's important for that evacuation.
And one thing before I forget, it's a little bit off topic, but if you have a way to get this out, and it should have got out, but if you can push this again. As of this time last year, so it's relatively new, there is a county ordinance in place that specifies that every single person needs to have a burn permit before they can burn. They will always purchase that burn permit at Pagosa Fire, regardless of the jurisdiction or district, whether it's in county, Pagosa Fire makes it. However, non-compliance of the ordinance results in a summons and a court appearance and a $600 fine. So we're taking a hard line against non-compliance of that. So that is in place, that is a county ordinance. We are enforcing that. We've enforced a number of non-compliance issues recently all over the county. That's not something somebody wants to have one of us come and visit for. So if you can get that out there, that's an important factor, because that has certainly, from our point of view, reduced a lot of the inconsiderate burning that does happen elsewhere.
Yeah, and the penalty doubles if it's in a stage 1 or stage 2 fire restriction. So right now we're in a stage 1, so that penalty is going to increase. Just to add to that, we just want to make sure everybody understands that we don't mean like a little fire pit that you're cooking some marshmallows on, or you're just having something there. You don't need a burn permit for that.
No.
But if you're burning 3x3, you're burning shrubs, you're burning pine needles, something that's a little bit bigger than just a little fire pit, that's when you really need to buy the permit, when it's a larger scale burn.
There's burning trash and trash. That's somewhat answered my question, but what is the exact fire restriction right now, and is it different for the north and the south side?
No, so that's a good question. Thanks for that. So the question is the fire restriction geographically, on the parameters geographically, like they have been in the recent years. We've always said south of 160 and west of 84. Right now it's county-wide. It's Montezuma County, Dolores, La Plata County, Rio Arriba, Hinsdale Mineral, Archuleta. So this whole southwest region is under stage 1 fire restriction. Primarily that restricts all open burning, smoking within your vehicle within a designated area. You may have a campfire, providing it's in a permanent ring or a structure with a grate over the top. So you're still able to do that at your house. You're able to have a fire pit, providing it meets that criteria. It mustn't be an open burn. Welding, you're able to weld, but if you're welding open, you've got to have 40 psi of either water pressure or 2 fire extinguishers. So we can send that reads a little bit ambiguous. It talks about wood burning stoves. If that's your primary source of heating, or that's what you have inside, that's fine. And what they mean by that is no wood burning stove in the outdoors, in the forest, or anything to that effect.
How often is that reevaluated?
Every week. So right now, there's a list of 10 criteria that we, actually the feds and those guys, they review. We have to meet 4 before we go into a stage 1 fire restriction. We're currently at about 6. So we're already, and 6 is the minimum to go into a stage 2. So we're already we're hovering on the border of a stage 2 fire restriction. We're currently just keeping it as a stage 1. We needed a flight path. We couldn't go from winter to stage 2 fire restrictions, although everything points to that. I don't anticipate that it will be too long. Unless anything changes with the weather, it might be another month before we go into stage 2, at which point all flame will be prohibited.
And on the zone conference call this morning, our surrounding area neighbors have already gone into stage.
Oh, they have,
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Which, La Plata and all
Stage
the-
2. Plata County is like next, I think, but
Okay.
I think it's the Southern New or Mesa Verde.
Mesa Verde going
They've
into
already
stage 2. So it's coming this way.
And clarify the burn trash in the trash cans, yes or no?
No,
Okay, everybody heard?
no,
Not
no.
spread that
No, not
word,
even,
please.
not even, it needs a permit. That would need a permit.
Yeah.
With the permit?
No, trash you may not burn. No burning trash.
Okay,
So that's under the Pagosa Fires permit restriction. You can burn in a burn barrel with a permit, providing it's brush or, wood or timber or whatever. Slash, but not trash. It's a difference. No slash, no trash. But right now, no fires other than just a campfire in a permanent structure with a grate over the top to either just have at the house or wherever, providing it's in a designated area. So you can't even go and do that in the forest unless it's in a designated campfire area.
I have 3 campfire areas around my house. And I also have a boiler that I use to heat my water with. Puts out a lot of smoke, but it's enclosed.
Sure, that's fine.
That's fine?
That's
Okay.
absolutely fine. And where your campfire areas, you have, I'm assuming you would have a grate over the top and a permanent structure around there?
Well, I've got a permanent structure, but never had it covered before.
No, well, so that's what it requires, is that it is required. I mean, you don't have a lot of neighbours that are going to see that, but if something starts from that, then there's a problem, because it didn't have what it was supposed to have based under the stage 1 fire restriction. I think that would be, we don't need to discuss.
So is a grate that you cook hamburgers and steaks on considered okay?
Yep.
Okay.
And you said permanent structure, can it be, you've got some rocks around it and you've got the grate on top?
So long as the rocks are reasonably
Right.
enclosed, and
Okay.
so that it's not one rock in 3 corners holding the grate. So, anybody have any other questions? I don't want to take everybody's time up here, and hopefully you've learned something, at least if anything. The Nixle Everbridge, the reverse 111 citizens alert system is probably the most important thing that you need to take from this. And again, I applaud you on your diligence in calling stuff in. If you can be super aware of what's happening, situational awareness, knowing who's doing what, understanding that, and just passing that information out, because there's a great group of people here tonight that doesn't represent everybody, and there's lots of people that don't get out and maybe don't read newspapers and don't do a lot of current affairs stuff, so we don't want to hurt them. It's just an education process, and so helping us get that education piece out is critical.
We will, we put the stage 1 fire restriction information on our Facebook page, went out, so we'll make sure that we do that again, so if you guys want to check that, and then we'll email the copy of the stage 1 as well, so you guys can email it out to the citizens here as well.
could you put the procedure for getting on the reverse 911 program on your Facebook, and then we can share it on the community
So
page?
Yes, thank you.
Christina sent out an email and has been sending out emails with links to various things, posters for various things, so we'll get that up to perhaps the board, and then if you guys can disperse it out in an email list, then at least you can choose whatever information you want out of there. But at least if we get on there and we start building our numbers. The private group, I have access to those telephone numbers. There's myself, Christina, and our other deputy that works with us, the three of us. We have access to both groups. Private group, the public group, we can't see the numbers. I just hit public group, and that goes out to everybody. The private group, I do have visibility of that, but again, it's such a useful tool in honing into a specific area. So it's up to you guys to decide. And Susan, and I know you guys are working on that, so maybe Ken and I can get together and talk about
Yes, definitely.
what the spreadsheet is. And,
Yep,
that's a little bit of work on your behalf.
that's okay.
Again, there have been questions asked, and oftentimes people say to us, hey, where's our map that you've drawn to get us out of our area? And just so that you know, we don't do that, and you guys need to know the best routes and have a think about that amongst yourselves, and maybe the district can help you with that.
Yeah, so the big thing is just be in contact with Mike too. Mike's available for any questions, you know, you can call our office directly if you guys have any questions or anything like that, any concerns about this or the evacuation, or if you want to help with this, just let us know.
And you might want to mention to everybody where you're at, Mike, because there's been a lot of changes in county buildings and rooms and such.
So right now the sheriff is at our office.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're based at what we call the EOC. It is 777 County Road 600. So
Nick's
Nick's hangar.
It's next to the airport, and we're at the top there. And EOC, Emergency Operations Center. Typically, what happens there is, and just to go back to the original deal, you have an incident command post, and you have people managing the actual incident. For the most part, that is us on the small scale stuff. As soon as it escalates, we leave the responders there, we pull back to the EOC. There's a big room there, we kind of get down and look at maps and stuff, and we have a multi-agency coordination group, which is all people in the county that can affect, that have that, and really for the most part, I'm the guy that's sending that stuff out, but it's not available. It's an isolated county thing. We're in a contract for 3 years. It's $7,000 a year that we're paying for. We take that very seriously. But I do use it extensively for things like snow days. You know, we hit various people in the county, notifying them. So it's a great tool. And we can talk a little bit more about that if you want to see that before you commit to it. And then we'll do a test.
Is it a requirement and or helpful to have the address posted at the end of the drive with the numbers on it? No?
Absolutely. I don't know if it's a requirement. It's definitely helpful.
Definitely
It would be helpful.
Yeah. And I like, and we've talked about this, I like that flagging option to say, we're out. It just needs to be consistent. So once we've come up with that, so long as we don't have a yellow flag at this day, and we don't know.
Excuse me, Mike, we need to get together as a committee and talk, but there's a lot of interest. This is the most people I've seen in the meetings in 2 years, so glad y'all can come back. What I think we ought to do is get together with you, and as a board, probably form a committee. We need to discuss it first, and that way we can get it on the websites. We can make sure that people that have been working so hard get a part of that committee if they choose to be on it.
Yep.
And then get with you, and you can give us some information and some helpful guys on what would help you guys, what we could set up to make your life easier. The first thing we probably need to come up with is a way to mark we've left, and a way that everyone knows how to mark their driveway, so you know there is a driveway and not a road going to the creek. That would help give us a chance to feel a little more comfortable while we went through the procedure, because it's going to take a while. I was reading the website, and there's quite a bit of information you're going to need from us. So we'll be happy to do that, but we have to discuss it first. So
sure. And so, you know, we touched on a lot of things here. Hopefully you got some information, some of it was of interest, and that you did get something out of it. By all means, feel free to call, email, whatever. I only work, it's only 24/7. It's not that bad. I'm waiting for your call at all hours of the night. I enjoy talking to you.
And no vacations. You don't take vacations.
Actually, I don't. And
He doesn't.
anyway, so I'm glad you guys came. Thanks for the great turnout. And if you need us again, we'll
one last thing I just want to pass on. We are having another meeting on Thursday at 3 o'clock at the Pagosa Lakes Property Owners Association. And that's where it's in conjunction with also Catchpole, the residents down in the Catchpole area, because we've got some concerns and some questions, and a lot of people have questions about livestock on the roadway and the challenges that we have. So the district attorney is going to be here to answer any of those questions as to why or why not.
Is that the one off of Vista? That way?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Go down Port Avenue,
Uh-huh.
go out to Vista, turn left on Port, and it's
Yeah.
right again.
So we're just doing nuisance ordinances, just general?
Yes.
Rich, just one thing, of your deputies know that all Aspen Springs County roads are county roads?
Yes, and we are working with that. In fact, we'll send another email out today or tomorrow. But I got with the county attorney today and confirmed that. I wanted to hear it from them, so yes, he gave me.
On a contract.
We have a contract with the county to maintain the road, but they're still county roads.
Still considered county roads. So all rules apply.
Thanks, gentlemen. Anybody have any other questions? No? Mike, can I get a card from you? Excuse me, Mike. Can you take some cards from me for just one, or I'll come by your office?
I'll go and